All right, here we go. Welcome once again. So women break free. So I'm assuming that not everyone is free. I know that's kind of a big assumption, right? We've all got some kind of lack of freedom somewhere in our lives, and we've been talking about for quite a while now all of these different issues. A lot of it is historical things, the patriarchy, the big stuff. You know, we've talked about Bible translations and how entire Bible translations were made to keep us women down and things like that. And we know about things out in the world, you know, whether it's in China where they have a policy of not what is it, a one child policy per family, and of course they prefer boys, and so the girls get murdered before they're even able to have a life. And of course 25 or so years of doing that, we have a whole lot of men on the planet in that part of the world, and of course not very many girls. And so it's definitely changed the atmosphere, changed the way the girls who are of age, who are in that world, how they're looked at, and it's made it much worse for them. And this population control has become a pretty big an even bigger problem. So we have extreme policies like that, but then we have smaller things that just, you know, have to do with whether or not we're able to have a voice in our own church or even in our own home. So all of those things are important, and that's why this whole women break free thing is important to me, because I have 3 daughters and a son and a daughter-in-law, and I know a lot of girls, and I know a lot of women, and I think these things affect us at all different levels, and we just need to be aware of the issues. Some of it's historical, some of it's political, a whole lot of it is religious, and a whole lot of it is just a bad, evil world that we live in, because it's the Satan, it's demons, it's our own free will, our own choices. So we've been talking about, last week we talked about Genesis 3, and we talked about or I talked a whole lot about the particular verse, Genesis 3:16, and how that verse is not really supposed to be to describe what it's supposed to be for women. It's supposed to, prescribe. It's supposed to describe what God said. Hey, because of your choices, Adam and Eve, this is what's going to happen now. Women, you're going to have pain in childbirth. Women, you're going to be looking toward your man, turn toward your man as an answer to your needs, instead of toward me. And men and women do that. That's not just a female thing, but that was this literary device that was used in Genesis to explain this to us of what happened back then. So hi, Deborah. So anyway, so I wanted to this week do something a little bit different and do a little bit more of a character study. So we're going to look at, if you want to get your Bibles, we're going to open it right down the middle, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Oh, just so you know, I change this every week, my background, because I think it's funny. And so this is appropriate for what we're going to be talking about tonight. So here we go. Oh man,
Getting good.
Stop. Hold on, I do have to get it to the right screen before I share it, but here we go. All right, you guys should be able to see this cool slide now. So give me a thumbs up. You should have a purple slide with women break free right across the middle of it to start off with. Here we go. All right. All right, ladies, I believe you are all loved and empowered by God to serve however the Holy Spirit leads you. Put it on a t-shirt, put it on a note card to yourself, write it in your car. But if anytime you're doubting that, make sure you know that you are loved, that you are empowered by God, by Holy Spirit, to do whatever God calls you to do. So tonight, our big character is Vashti. I'm sure some of you figured that out, maybe not, but I want to talk about this queen, this lady who is only mentioned a couple times, one little chapter in the Bible, but the thing that she did, the moment that changed everything, it changed her life, it changed a people group. It changed Esther's life, as if you know the story, and it changed the world at that time. But it's a very weird story that a lot of people have used to to against women. But we're going to take a look at it in the sense of identity tonight. This is a really important topic to me, identity. I don't think I realized it was until I started thinking about this particular character. And I started just kind of thinking of stories in my own life and my family and my kids and youth group stuff that I've done. And I realized that it's a really big thing. So I'm not going to go through the whole story of Esther. I'm going to believe that you guys know the basic story, the basic premise of Esther. If you want to open to Esther, the book of Esther, chapter 1, you can kind of look around, check my notes, and see if I'm getting it right with you. But the story of Esther is a very entertaining narrative. It's set in the city of Susa, in this ancient place called Persia, and the two most important characters in the story, two of them, not the most, there's several, but two of the most are Vashti and Esther, and they never even meet that we know of. The relationship between them is integral, though, to understanding how all these events unfold. Vashti disappears after chapter 1. She has this long shadow that rests over the whole book, and really she's rested. Is that the right way to say it? Rested over all of our lives in a lot of ways. Maybe we've heard sermons or heard teachings when we were in Sunday school, and they always want to talk about Esther. And Vashti is sort of like that lady that a lot of times, if depending on your teacher, or where you lived or something, she's the disobedient lady. She's the unsubmissive queen. She's the stubborn and obstinate queen. She's the bad girl. And we really, I don't know that that's really the truth about her. And I'm not the only one who thinks that. I've read a whole lot of other theologians, and, because I'm doing the Lord's work for you, working hard, looking up all the stuff. But she disappears, but we're still trying to figure out some things about her. Most of the men in the book are portrayed as bumbling fools. Now, we know Mordecai, he's the good guy, right? But all the other men in the book are foolish. There's the character of Haman. He's this perfect villain. It becomes a tragedy and a comedy, and there's a plot of intrigue and different stories, backstories of things going on over here, but then it affects over here, but this one finds out about it. It almost is a tale of fiction, and I have to be honest with you, there are quite a few religious theologian people that say that it is fiction, that it is not an actual true story. There is no record of a Vashti or an Esther. Of course, there is this king that either is named Ahasuerus or Xerxes. I'll probably call him Xerxes tonight, but I don't even know if I'm saying it right. But this king was a king for sure. He was a true person. We're not totally sure exactly which one it was in history, but as far as the actual story of exactly the way this happened with Esther, with Vashti, we're not totally sure because of literary styles. It is possible that a lot of this was, sort of an amalgamation. Poetic license may have been taken, but it is in our Bibles, and other people in the Bible have referenced it, and including other historians like Josephus, who was right around the time of Jesus. So I don't know why I keep doing this. That's a new one tonight. Okay, so this is like lifestyles of the rich and famous. We got this dude, according to Greek historian Herodotus. I'm really much better at speaking than I seem. Xerxes, or Ahasuerus, was not just tall, dark, and handsome. He was the tallest and the most handsome Persian of all, and he was a spoiled playboy as well. He was ruler of what was then the world's largest empire. This is all true stuff. In Esther 1, we see that for a full 180 days, he displayed the vast wealth of his kingdom and the splendor and glory of his majesty. I didn't do the math. I was told there would be no math. 180 days, I don't know how many months that is, but it's a bunch. Hold up your fingers if you know how many months that is. It's a bunch of months. This is kind of, thank you, Judy. This is a bunch of months, 6 months of partying. And this is kind of a normal thing. It's a cultural thing. He wasn't the only kind of guy that did this. Displaying your wealth, especially if you're the richest guy around, is how you do it. You're showing off your weapons. You're showing off your ability to conquer. You're showing who you have conquered. And so it was not necessarily abnormal. I mean, we know that King Solomon had a couple of these kind of big events, maybe not 6 months long, but big events where you showed these things off. So fun fact, 7 of the 10 of Esther's 10 chapters refer to somebody throwing a party. This is my kind of book, y'all. I'm sure there was karaoke going on in the back room somewhere, right? Oh, okay. I did see that, Judy. Thank you. Judy said boo Haman. Judy has obviously been in on some Bible classes, because whenever you hear the name Haman, you're supposed to boo just like you would in a melodrama. So good job, Judy. Okay, so Vashti, let's get to her. She was the crowned queen of Persia. Think of the most beautiful woman you've ever seen. Some scholars suggest that her beauty was even more than our yet to be introduced hero Esther. One reason they believe that is because her beauty is mentioned 2 times. Esther's is only mentioned once, and in that kind of genre of literature, that means something. Those words and the number of times things are written mean something. So either one of them, though, drop dead gorgeous. We'll just say that. they were known for that. So this book opens with Xerxes having this big, lavish, gaudy banquet. By our standards, lavish and gaudy. By their standards, probably a little more normal. So that's what makes it a little bit difficult. But when the drinking starts, Xerxes, this is after, I believe this is toward the end of the party, right? He summons his wife Vashti to appear before the male guest and exhibit her beauty. And as we well know, she refuses. The king's so-called wise men urge him to remove Vashti as queen and to send letters to the entire empire, laying forth the details of what happened. And they have to do this for the sake of the men, because though other women might hear about it, we got to protect our guys, and we don't want any of the other women getting these ideas that they have a voice. So for the sake of the men of the kingdom, they are doing this. Thank you for the wise guys. The befuddled king follows his counsel and banishes Vashti from his presence. He soon regrets it, but now he has to find a new queen. According to the Midrash, which, by the way, fun facts, that's an ancient commentary on part of the Hebrew scriptures. And the Midrash, they refer to Vashti as a great granddaughter of King Nebuchadnezzar, the granddaughter of King Amel Marduk, and the daughter of King Belshazzar. So according to Jewish history, she was a big deal. She wasn't just somebody that they pulled in off the street, so to speak, for her beauty, as we find out about Esther later. But she actually had a background, a royal background. She had pedigree, and she was used to being in a court, and she knew the rules, and she knew how things should go, and she had a little oomph behind her saying no. That may have been why. I mean, we don't know if she was killed. It doesn't seem like she was. We don't really know according to the story, but maybe that's why, they didn't want to tick off the other country where she came from. But after months of feasting, Xerxes sends his eunuchs to bring Queen Vashti before him with her royal crown. He wanted to show off her beauty to the people and to all the officials. The king's request that she show off her beauty, some, not all, interpret it as she may need to appear naked or dance, maybe only with her crown. It might be that is all she is meant to wear. We don't really know, though. The biblical texts don't comment on her motivation, and they do not judge her. There is no judgment that you can see against anything that she did, against the decision. It just says that she refused. It does not say why. It doesn't say anything else. Josephus, the historian that we read a lot about when we're studying New Testament stuff, and we're trying to figure out if any of these things from the New Testament, if Jesus existed and all the cool stuff about the disciples and everything, Josephus is the one we go to. And he writes that she declined to appear before the king's guests because of a Persian law that forbids wives from being seen by strangers. So he believes that she did it because she knew the law, because maybe she was protecting the king, or she was protecting her understanding of the law itself, and she refused to do that. So that's another interpretation. I've never heard that one before, but it is quite possible. It's not necessarily what we end up getting in most sermons is, look how submissive Esther is, as opposed to the unsubmissiveness of Vashti. That is not in the text, you guys. That's something we put in there, and I'm not saying every sermon about that is wrong. I've taught those kind of things myself. I'm just saying that there may have been other cultural reasons. Okay, this rabbi, Michael Fox, he wrote, if Vashti had appeared before the males, including commoners, especially when the king himself was lightheaded with wine, she would be behaving like a mere concubine. Therefore, she stands on her dignity and refuses to come. So Vashti is contrasted with the fools. So we see her, and we see Esther and Mordecai like this too. We see them in a contrast position in the way the literary technique is, contrasted with these foolish people who the king, he can't make a decision without all of his wise guys around him. He's afraid of everything that will affect the whole empire. He's afraid for himself, and he's bumbling around. She just says no. So we have a little contrast there, and she comes off a little bit better when you're looking at it like that. There's a lot of male insecurity in the book. Now listen, y'all, I'm once again, I don't hate guys. I'm just telling you what's in the text here, you guys. We have a whole lot of stuff in the Bible where women are made to look like fools. So every once in a while, we're just going to throw in some good hey, the guys are looking like goofballs right now. And I think in this one we definitely have some pretty good examples. Eventually Haman, you know about his ego and some of the crazy things he ends up doing and saying, and as well quite villainous, horrible, but yeah. So anyway, so it's not against the guys, you guys. I'm just telling you in this book. So she, this hysteria that they had that a woman disobeyed and might influence other women to disobey, it's kind of laughable to us today. Like I'm making fun of it right now. Look at me. Well, we cannot look at this story just from this feminist, like, oh, look how strong she was, because we really have no idea what was going on. We really don't. The culture of the time, they probably would have understood what she did much differently. It's likely that an ancient reader or a person in this ancient time would have thought about it more as a rank type of a thing, like she's the queen and this is something that mere concubines do. So she didn't see herself in that place. So it could have been a law thing. It could have been, hey, I do a different dance. I'm not doing that dance. I mean, we don't really know. But it is interesting though, just the simple fact that she did refuse. Okay, so we are going to contrast her now with Esther. Vashti is really, she's the character that kind of intrigues me the most, but you know, we all got to love Esther. She got a whole book named after her, right? There's only a couple of ladies who got that. Esther's early years are distinguished, though, very differently than what we see from Vashti. It's about passivity and compliancy for good reason. We learned that she was an orphan who had been taken by her cousin, uncle, some kind of relative, became a daughter or his ward. She was very obedient to him, did what he said. You need to do this, you need to do that. Don't reveal that you're a Jew. You know, she obeyed. Esther is entirely dependent and governed by males. All the males in her life, she did exactly what she was told. She is soon taken. This word again in the Hebrew is over and over again referred to with her. She is taken to be with her relative. She is taken to be with the other virgins. She is put into a harem. She's being controlled by a eunuch. She goes through a 12-month beauty treatment, and then she's taken again one night to the king's bed. Contrary to the common notion of her being in some sort of beauty pageant, which I myself have done a very funny play that I wrote and directed for my junior high group back in the day. It was hilarious, and we of course did the whole thing around a beauty pageant. It was quite funny actually, but that's not really what was happening. Every beautiful young virgin was taken. Being put in the harem was beyond her control. There is no hint in the verses how she felt about it. We have no idea. Just like with Vashti, we really have no idea how she felt about it. Her feelings are irrelevant. They're irrelevant to the story. They're irrelevant to any of the men around her. Not because of any character flaw, but because her age, her situation. You just do what you're told. And her gender, of course. She has never been challenged to assert herself in any way. So Esther is accepting and submissive to whatever is done to her. Now, this submission idea with her is is true. We can read that into the text, but we also have to understand that this is what we would call today sex trafficking for the women in her time period. She had no choice. She did exactly what she had to do to survive, and to just do what she was told. So we don't know how she felt about it. She had no opinion. She doesn't even ask for anything to bring with her on her big night, which seems like, oh, that's such a big deal. She doesn't ask for anything, but I think it just continues to show this just complete compliance that she had to the situation that she was in. But because of this submissiveness, it says people like her. The eunuch liked her. The king liked her. She's taken to the king. It's no surprise he loves her. And she apparently has Vashti's good looks, but without the stubborn willingness that Vashti has. We don't see that. So the king makes her queen. Doo-doo. And then 3 years later, Esther learns from Mordecai of the plan to kill the Jews. She comes to this new place then. All of a sudden, boom, in the story, we have a complete change in what happens with her. And she says these famous words that we all know: I would go to the king contrary to law, and if I perish, I perish. If I die, I die. If I'm gone, I'm gone, you guys. This is our greatest call, as followers of the Lord, is to say, whatever you want me to do, I will have the courage to do it. And if I die, I die. Because this all comes back to us knowing who we are, right? So this has to do with our Christian faith. Our faith in God says, I have a hope outside of myself. That's why I can do the things I do. I can even make the mistakes that I make, because I can know God has a plan for me. God loves me. God has given me dreams and visions, and I may not be on the perfect path all the time. I may have fears or insecurities that keep me off of it, but I'm heading that direction. But that's because we have we believe in a God who wants a relationship with us. That's all, that's all apologetics, you guys. I taught last spring. It's that's one of the basics of it, is knowing that there is a God who has a plan for us, and we have a connection with. And that's why we can have a hope. That's why we can be willing to die, even because we believe there's something after. So where we see Vashti as this willful, independent person, possibly Esther we can see as more passive and submissive. She goes then all of a sudden at this moment that she's encouraged by Mordecai, probably after a while in the castle as being queen. She realizes who she is. She has power. She has probably more education, and understands who who she is and what she is expected of her. But she also she has this relationship with Mordecai, that she apparently was raised in this Jewish atmosphere as well. So she still has this connection to her Jewishness and her roots, and she's basically having to pick between the two. So she goes from being a docile, likable young thing to actually being manipulative and clever and strategic. All words that I love. Some of my favorite words, especially clever and strategic, I believe are some of the most important words for women. Really for anybody, but definitely for Christians. But since we're talking about women, we'll just go with that. She already knew that the king did not take well to strong women. We already have an example of that. That's the openings of our story, is we have the story of Vashti and how being strong and willful and or whatever else, or just saying no or refusing something, went against. So Esther decided, I'm going to go a different way with this. And Haman was this level of evil that needed a special strategy, not just whether or not she was dancing before the king, but actually a level of ugliness that wasn't just about a king showing off his wealth or maybe breaking a Persian law, but this is about an entire people group, an entire culture. So it needed a different level of strength. So she used her awareness of the system that she was in and the prayers of the people to find the best approach to this situation. She used strategy and cleverness and patience and even maybe a little bit of a pretend docileness. I mean, we see what she did when when she reveals the final big reveal about Haman, and the king storms out of the room, and she's just laying there on her couch, and Haman comes and throws himself at her. I mean, she could have like turned around and slugged him, which I mean, she may have done later. I don't know. But there's even a little bit of oh well, hey, I don't know what happened here. And next thing you know, he throws himself at her, and the king catches him, and the whole bit. So quite a fun story, but uses that to her advantage. um she used this male dominance and foolishness against them. I'm laughing because I'm going to tell y'all a story in a minute, and I think it's funny. So as Esther, I just remembered it, and I got to figure out where to fit it in. Okay, as Esther finds the strength to save her nation, she must revisit the experiences of her shunned predecessor and learn from them. And the passage is everyone knows that there's a single law in case like any man or woman. Oh, yeah. She says this to Mordecai. This is when she figures this out. It's supposed to be everyone. Everyone knows that there's a single law. There's a law in a case like this. Any man or woman who comes to the king in the inner courtyard without being called is put to death. She's quoting law. She's very aware of it. This is that moment where she says, where we see her with that change. No more docile. No more just doing what everybody tells her. She now has to come up with a plan and a strategy and have a level of courage that she's never had before. So Esther becomes more calculated, more subtle, divinely inspired, and ultimately far more successful than Vashti. But she has a different reason to. Vashti, she might have had that much courage. She didn't really have a reason to, but Esther really did have a reason outside of herself. In order to triumph, though, Esther must confront this image of the rebellious Vashti and incorporate it, discover these attributes in herself. Yes, she's going against the law. Yes, she's going against the rules, but how can she make that work for her advantage? This is an amazing story to me. All of that is something that okay, y'all don't think I'm crazy, but I think about that kind of stuff a lot. Call me manipulative or call me clever and strategic, but I think that those kind of abilities are key and important in whether you're a mom, a wife, a friend, working on other people's behalf in a school system or a workplace or things like that. You have to be careful and strategic. There's a passage in the New Testament in the gospel somewhere that talks about Mary and how the angel came to Mary and told her, she was going to be pregnant with the Savior and all these things, and all these things happened to her really fast in these couple of chapters. And you see this verse that says, and Mary, it's something like, that she sat and pondered these things. And I think that's an important moment. Those thinking and figuring it out and saying, okay, how's this going to play out? And that's what I feel with Esther as well. The writer of Esther also shows us this interesting relationship that of cooperation between a male and a female. And so, I got to throw in some anti-patriarchy stuff in here, you guys. And when this book or this character is used to say, women are supposed to be in submission to men, and Eve was there because of taking care of Adam, to be his helper, his helpmate, to be in submission to him, which you guys know I've already taught all that's not true the way it's supposed to be. But we actually see a male and a female in this. Do y'all know who it is? Raise your hand. And these two people brought prestige and influence to the Jewish community and beyond. We got Esther and Mordecai, which played by the great, I can't remember his name, but he won the Oscar. But that's a different movie. But anyway, Mordecai and Esther, and their relationship, what they did to work together. Eventually, we see Esther, who was always, following what Mordecai told her and following what all the men told her, and all of a sudden it switches and she's telling him what to do. She's bringing him, eventually she saves him, she brings him glory, and eventually he ends up with a job, this great job to oversee the king's properties and stuff, got Haman's job, and everything, it changes, but it was the cooperation and the working together of these two, older and younger, male and female, all both of them having a plan given to them by God, and a boldness and a bigger vision outside of themselves, a bigger mission outside of themselves. The hero of the book is a woman whose importance to the Jewish people is not based on childbearing. There's only a handful of stories in the Bible of women who, what they did for the world was not just giving us baby, Isaac, or giving us baby David, or giving us baby Samson, or baby Jesus, or anything. There's only a handful of women, and we get more of them in the New Testament, but especially like Acts and all those other books later on, we don't know about Junia, and we don't know about Mary Magdalene, and we don't know about uh, Priscilla and things that we don't know if they had babies, but in the Old Testament, especially, all we see are, well, this woman was so great because she ended up being the great grandmother of so-and-so. So this is important that we have this in Esther. And I am fascinated. I'm completely fascinated, as I said before, by the story of Vashti contrasting to Esther. I see them two, the greatness of Esther. I'm not wanting to downplay that, but I think it's an interesting, because I love stories, I love literature. I know a lot of you do, and just seeing, and I'm a big, just a little side note here, I'm a huge J.K. Rowling fan, a huge Harry Potter fan, and one of the most important and coolest things about J.K. Rowling, and also I believe this is done with Lord of the Rings, is there is a ring composition where the things she did at the beginning of the book are also mirrored at the end of the book, and she does it through the whole series, and there's a whole mirror kind of thing. What's kind of similar to a literary style in this particular work, whether it's fiction or not, this literature style, there's this balance, these contrasting, this mirror of these two different people. Just a little side note for Harry Potter fans. Recently, I was asked to write up some characteristics of the next generation. I work for Barbara Winterble Ministry. I do some entrepreneur classes for her, and I was supposed to write it up and do a little presentation on ideas to help the adults that she or in her leadership training groups, help them better minister to the kids. So one of the key traits that we all hear about, and that is a part of ministering to young people, or just knowing what's going on with young people, it has to do with identity. Gender identity is a huge topic right now, of course, but it's not just related to gender. It is just simply knowing who we are, knowing who I am, knowing a young person wanting to know who I am, and the gender issue we hear a lot about is all tied up in this, because it has to do with being able to put a name on something. I want to name am I a male or a female, or am I a Christian? If I'm not a Christian, am I a non-Christian? Am I an atheist? What am I? And you have to know, you have to be able to say it. You have to be able to put your pronouns out somewhere. It's a part of identifying yourself. Everything that you wear, the things that you put on your social media, everything is your identity. And people immediately, it's much worse than us old people ever imagined. It is quick, and it happens fast, and it's really scary for young people. And the issues that they're dealing with have to do with mental health. There's shame, there's emotional wounds. Of course, porn uses are really difficult issues. These are just the things I'm just telling you about the things I wrote up, and some of the big things that were in this. Lack of a biblical worldview for those who claim to be Christians, even, and of course loneliness. But a lot of this is adult stuff too. It's not just kid stuff. So young people today are overwhelmed with anxiety in a different way. We have anxiety, we've all got it. We've had it. We had it when we were younger too, but it's different now. I don't know if you guys are around it as much, or young people, but there is differences, and it's very, and of course, oh gosh, the last year and a half, we all know that craziness. That's a whole nother level of anxiety besides just identity issues. So they're all, these young people are being asked to have opinions. You got to have an opinion. You got to know who you are. You got to know what you believe about really broad topics. It could be about politics, or about something happening in the news, or whether it's a hurricane or a volcano, or wildfires, or climate change, vaccines, not vaccines, just anything you can think of. They're expected to have an opinion and have and whatever that opinion is, it's supposed to be fully formed. And if you even begin to say it, or you post something, or you literally click a like on something, even accidentally. I just was reading about a big celebrity that I admire the other day who accidentally clicked on something on Twitter as a like, was just sort of scrolling through and got bombarded to such a degree that they canceled, people started canceling her speaking engagements and everything else because it got so extreme, and it was all based on just a click. So so everything that you do, everything you click is expected to be a fully formed, thought out. And of course, we all know, I mean, I actually made a list one time of all of the things that I thought when I was younger that I don't believe now. Everything from, religious issues, everything from, divorce and I don't know. I had a whole list of all kinds of things, that tithing. I mean, just things that I have better understanding of now. And still don't totally understand a lot of it, but to believe that I have a fully formed, and I'm very well read. You guys know I'm a very opinionated person. But young people now are really, this is a very difficult thing for them. They're losing friends, they're losing grades, jobs, uh, social media accounts, everything they could use if they can't figure out how to express themselves. So they're shutting down and they're pulling back. And a lot of adults are doing that too. It's not just young people. So what to do to help our young people know that even though they don't have all the answers, they can let God make them into people who can bring change to the world. That's what we have to do to help them. We have to let them know that it's okay. I know, maybe get off social media for a while. Maybe let's pull back. It's okay to be figuring out who you are. I'm 55 years old. I'm figuring out who I am. Every time a new situation comes up into my life, I'm having to figure out, oh, this is new. I'm dealing with a death in the family that I wasn't expecting, or I'm dealing with a kid issue that I wasn't expecting, or a work situation that I've never had to deal with before that's causing me, anxiety or having to figure something out. All of those things are things I'm still working on, and we can help the young people around us. We can help just anybody. It doesn't have to be the young person, just be our friend. Help them figure out what it comes down to is identity, though. Figuring out who we are. It's something we are all struggling to figure out. There's a quote: a strong sense of identity is necessary for a woman to keep her balance in her calling and work. It's about integrity, about staying true to this authentic personhood in the variety of life situations. Jesus himself was the epitome of a person with a strong sense of personhood. So God placed human beings on the planet, filled them with potential, and commanded them to make it all grow, multiply it, make it better. Here's the garden, God says to Adam and Eve. Do something with it. It's yours. We're still here on the planet, and that's what we're supposed to be doing. That is our basic identity, is honoring the creator whenever we take something that has potential and we make it into something new and better, whether it's a friend or a kid near us, or just a piece of art, or just something around us that needs help. That is part of connecting with our creator, and that includes ourselves, making ourselves better. So where do we find this identity? So the first thing we have to do when we're trying to find our identity is we have to look in the scriptures, and we look at Eve. We look at the defining characteristics of the first woman. And you're like, oh, there's only a couple chapters. But I got stuff, y'all. I got stuff. Okay, so Azer, that's the Hebrew word that was used for her. Azer, it means rescuer. It means necessary ally. That's still who we women are. We are rescuers. We're necessary. We are allies with the human companions that we are put with. It does not have to be a husband. It is the people you are connected with. We are strength. We are protectors, multipliers. We are told that God gave this plan to Adam and Eve. I want you to multiply. He wants both of them to be leaders, companions, equals, vital. Imago Dei is the image of God. That's who we are. That is our characteristics. Be fruitful and multiply and subdue the earth. That's what we're supposed to be doing. We're created in God's image. We're being transformed into Christ's image. We're not supposed to be transformed by the pattern of the world. We're supposed to be renewing ourselves. But that's the understanding of that verse is that it's an ongoing thing. It's not like a one-time shot. Oh, you got saved. Oh, you're transformed. No, thankfully, thank God that is not true. It is an ongoing thing that we are transforming our minds, renewing, being renewed, not being conformed to this world. So as we come to understand our identity as women, we search first for His identity as God. We connect with God's identity, whether it's through Eve or looking at Esther and the things that God says, "Oop, that right there, that's good. Oop, that right there, gonna have to work on that one," and we just keep moving forward. So I'm trying these moving backgrounds. I don't know what y'all think. They're not really looping very well, but okay. So the question is, are you in Vashti or an Esther? Okay, yeah, well, maybe that's a little much. For our whole lives, we're searching for this. I'm not really trying to make y'all pick one. It's important to give ourselves a break if we're not getting it right. We're actually a Vashti some days, and some days we're an Esther, and some days we're a Mordecai, and some days we might be a Xerxes, a little bumbling of a fool, and hopefully we're just never a Haman. Just keep that one out of the category, you guys. No Hamans for us. We're not going to be a Haman, but we go between all of them. We go within one day. We could be a Vashti and Esther, a Mordecai, a foolish, stupid person. There's a verse that says that calls themselves a stupid human. How am I as a stupid human even able to do anything? Okay, so I want to connect this to some history, you guys. I really love this person, Dietrich Bonhoeffer. You don't know anything about him, do a little Wikipedia search. But Bonhoeffer was an amazing pastor, and during World War II in the 40s, he became known for his staunch resistance to the Nazi dictatorship. He was like this young guy who just wanted to be a pastor, studying the Word of God. He starts realizing that this Nazi stuff is rising up, and he gets on the radio and he starts doing sermons and doing talks and saying, "Hey, there's something wrong here, you guys. This guy, this Adolf guy, you need to stay away from him." And one time he was given one of his talks, and all of a sudden his speech stopped. No more talk. The radio died. His broadcast died. To this day, they don't know exactly why or how that happened. They don't know if the Nazis came in or just mouse ate the plug. But he was very vocal. He made a very strong stand. It started off with the euthanasia program, and of course he was trying to get the Christians to rise up and do what they could to take care of the Jews. And he saw the persecution very quickly. He at one point he was imprisoned, and he was later hanged because he became a part of the underground, and he got caught because he and a bunch of other people were a part of an assassination attempt or a plot, and they never did get to make the attempt to assassinate Hitler. He eventually was hanged. He was killed along with the other co-conspirators, and it was right before it was the end of the war, and the Allies were about to win, and they just started killing everybody in the prisons. He was the concentration camp at one point. Schindler, we've all heard of Oscar Schindler, right? Totally different way of dealing with the bad guys, though. A member of the Nazi Party, credited with saving 1,200 Jews during the Holocaust by employing them in his factories. So what we have here is a Bonhoeffer and a Schindler, and to me, that is a Vashti and an Esther. These are two people fighting the bad guys. And this is what I want young people and I want us to see. I want us to realize that, sometimes you go in and you go in hard and you go in fast and you say, "This is wrong. I'm making speeches. I'm going into the school, and I'm going to let that person know. I'm going to go before the city council, or I'm going to stand up to the bully that's bothering me or my family or my kid." Or just sometimes it's just in Satan's face, just screaming at him and saying no. And other times you're a Schindler or an Esther, and you're having to be careful, and you have to be strategic, and you're having to go about your planning of how you're going to save yourself or others carefully. You have to be you might have to be a little submissive where normally you wouldn't want to. You might have to think through some things, or maybe get a few people on your side, but not talk too much. Maybe just keep it low and just between you and God. But both of these people, all four of them that I'm talking about, all well, we don't know totally about Vashti, but it looks like stood up against evil, corruption, injustice on some level, and they did it according to the plan God gave them. Their identity, the characteristics that were in them was what God used. And it was different, and it's okay, you guys. It's that's what I'm saying about the young people. Is we're looking at the young people, and so the world is looking at them saying, "You got to figure this out. You got to be bold. You got to be strong. You got to say your piece." And they're like, I'm still figuring this out. And we have to encourage them, and we have to encourage ourselves to say, okay, we're figuring this out. Our identity is in Christ. Our identity is in who God made me. And some of us, we will be able to declare openly the truths of God. Some of us will have to be strategic and clandestine. I mean, the big open ones, they're posting stuff on Facebook all the time, right? Some of us are not. it's to that degree and more, right? Because I'm talking about just in your interpersonal relationships. I'm talking about in your friendships. Sometimes there's people that you're going to have to get in their face and say, you need to take a chill pill. You need to get out of my face. You need to stop doing this. And other people, you got to be really careful. Here's the funny story I was thinking about earlier. My former stepmom years ago, my real wonderful lady, and she loved dogs. I mean, just loved animals, and she had this beautiful dog named Shakespeare. It was a what do you call those? English sheepdog. It was an English sheepdog, big old dog. And she lived in this They lived in this nice subdivision on this lake, and her dog passed away. And she wanted to bury her dog in her backyard. So she went over to a corner of her yard, and she found a little place, and she starts digging. So she's digging, just quiet, private, just her and her dead pooch. I mean, she just wants to take care of it. Just leave me alone. Well, the neighbor saw her, and the neighbor was a man who felt like he needed to have a discussion with her about this. So he comes over to her and he says, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be burying your dog. You can't do that. You're it's against the law. You're not allowed to bury things out here. And she was, pretty upset, and she wanted to, have a fight with him about it, and cry and scream and everything at him and yell at him to just leave her alone. But she decided to go a different direction. What she did instead was now, I don't recommend this all the time, but I think it was strategic. She just realized that this guy just wanted to be in charge. He wanted to have a say. So what she did was she kind of used her girlishness, and she just said, I'm just so sorry. My dog died, and I'm so sad, and I just want to bury it. And she used this guy's desire to be in charge to her advantage. And next thing you know, he said, well, really, you're supposed to have lime, and the hole's not deep enough, and let me help you with that. Next thing you know, he's helping bury her dog. I'm not saying, do that every time you're trying to get out of a ticket, you ladies. That's not my point. My point is that she used, in a kind of a simple situation, but she used the bumbling foolishness and the arrogance, really, of this guy to do what she wanted to do, which was actually breaking the law. But okay, maybe that wasn't the greatest story, but I always thought it was pretty funny. And honestly, I have actually done that myself. I had a coach that was causing a lot of problems for a team, my girls' team, and they were just like a little JV team, and she would not let the girls have a pizza party. She threw a fit. We found out we were going to have a pizza party. They were the JV team. They weren't even the varsity. They were just a little bunch of little kids, and they were having this. They wanted to have a pizza party, just team builder kind of thing. And she heard about it, and she told the girls, you're not going to be able to have a pizza party. You can't get together. It's against the rules. It's against the UIL rules, which in Texas, that's governs their everything. So Casey, my daughter, she texts me and she calls me. She says, Coach isn't going to let us do it. So I was furious, and I picked up the phone and I called, and thankfully she did not answer. I got the coach's line. So I hung up the phone, and I started thinking, and I had time to think, and I thought, and I thought, and I thought, and I had several hours because I knew kind of the coach's schedule, and I knew she wouldn't probably get her messages until then, the end of the day before, the practice time. So I had a couple hours, and I thought, and all of a sudden I thought of that story of my stepmother. And I realized that this coach loved rules, loved the rules. I mean, the rules were a very big deal to her. And I'd been around her for a year or two. And so I knew about her. And so I said, Lee, my husband, I said, Lee, help me find the UIL rules. And so we looked them up and we found the rules, and we sat there and we looked through all the rules to see if it was a rule that you could not have a pizza party or any kind of get together. And we realized that that used to be a rule, but it was no longer a rule. It was no longer, because they had this thing that they didn't want parents to buy things because it meant that you were giving money to the kids, and it's, we don't want them to be professionals and get money. It's all stupid and ridiculous. But anyway, they changed that rule. And we realized that it had been like in the last couple of years, they had changed that. So because I had called her, she was going to call me back. So later on, she called me back. And I became very sweet. She says, yes, Miss Forrest, what can I do for you? I said, Coach, I'll call her Coach Smith. Coach Smith, I was really excited to do this pizza party. I told her all about the pizza party, and she was being real quiet and just listening. And I said, but I found out that you weren't that you said that it was against the rules. So you know what I did? I went ahead and I looked them up. I looked up the rules, and I just kept talking as fast as I could. I looked up all the rules, and I realized that they had actually changed that rules. Isn't that great, Coach Smith? Isn't that great? They changed the rules. And I just kept talking and talking and talking as fast as I could. And I said, so it doesn't look like it's going to be a problem. So is it okay? So I'm just going to have the girls come over, and they're going to be here at 6:30, and we're going to have pizza, and then they'll be home. But the parents are going to. I just went on and on and on and on. Did not even give her a chance. But I used what was important to her, and I flipped it. Thankfully, the UIL rules had changed, but I flipped it, and I used a strategy of trying to work within the system, but also take care of these kids because they had been under a very difficult regime of rules and regulations. And it got to the point where at one point they had a parent meeting. They said that they were going to monitor all of the kids' social media. This was early social media. This is like only when we had Facebook. And one of the other coaches saw my face across the room and knew that I was going to be in front of him by the end of the meeting. And as I walked up to him, he said, "It's okay, Miss Forrest. I know." And I said, "I don't think you can do that. I'm going to find out though." And he goes, no, we're going to take care of it. So I tried to always be kind and nice, but I had to work within the rules. This lady right here is Alex Borstein, and she is on a TV show called The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which is absolutely fantastic TV show. It does have a lot of F words, so if you don't like that, I will not recommend it. But it is amazing. And anyway, she won the Emmy for I think last year, the year before, for her role. And this is what she said: "My grandmother was in line to be shot into a pit. She said, 'What happens if I step out of line?' He said, 'I don't have the heart to shoot you, but somebody will.' And she stepped out of line. For that, I am here, and my children are here. So step out of line, ladies, step out of line." When she said that, I jumped off the couch. I was so excited, not only because I love her and her character, but because I love that, because I need that. I need somebody to say that to me every once in a while. I need some stories. And today, my bestie, Deborah, sent me this on a little text. I don't even know why she sent it to me, but she sent me this, and it says, it was like a little thing. It was just a little image. And she didn't even type it out. She just copied and pasted the image. And it says, "Ladies, please don't go through life trying to be small, silent, accommodating, and convenient as possible. Speak your mind, even if your voice shakes. Don't subscribe to extreme forms of modesty. Own your beauty, intelligence, and energy. Be fierce and unapologetic always." She gave me encouragement. She didn't even know what I was teaching on tonight. She just sent me a little note. So my own kids, I have a little note to myself to tell you a couple more stories, but my own kids, I try to do this with my kids or kids that I'm around, and identity is a really big deal. I have 4 kids, and I remember all my kids were super busy. My oldest, oh my gosh, that kid always had something going on, whether it's athletics or theater or something. She's friends parties. I mean, she's always doing something. My son, the next one, he was really busy. He had lots of friends and all kinds of activities all the time. We were always running and going and going and going. Third kid, same thing. Everybody had their own little thing. And all of a sudden, we're sitting at dinner one time, which we didn't really always honestly have a lot of at home dinners because everybody was always running all the time. But we were sitting at dinner one time, and I remember looking at my youngest, and she was still pretty young. I mean, she was probably like maybe 5 or so, at 6 maybe. And so she was always like just going to somebody's event. I mean, she was like playing little kid basketball because all of her kids played little kid sports and stuff, but soccer and things like that. But she didn't. She is kind of trying to figure out where was she in this family. I mean, I didn't really even know yet, and I was afraid that she was going to get kind of left behind. She was going to get just always in the stands, always in the seats, watching her siblings. And it's hard to picture your kids as they grow up, and you don't know what they're going to be. And so I decided I was going to give her an identity. If this before I knew the word to say for it. So at dinner, I said something. All the kids were talking, everybody's being loud and goofing around and stuff, which is my favorite. I love that. But the louder and more talking, the better. But I said, well, kids, I mean, Callie, she's smarter than all you guys anyway, because she has always been, I mean, like super smart, like quick, has an amazing memory. And so I decided I was going to highlight that. I was going to make a big, now all my kids are smart. Yes, they're all brilliant. Yes, whatever. But I needed her to have something. The moment I said that about her being as smart as she is, and that, okay, this sounds bad, but it worked good in context, you guys. I said, well, she's smarter than all of you guys. Of course, all of the other 3 were like, what do you mean? No, she's not. No, she's not. Blah, blah, blah. Callie's face lit up. She was so happy. And of course, then it became a thing about, oh, well, I made grades and I made this and that. But I realized that it worked. It took a little while, me saying it every once in a while. All of a sudden, she did become that smart kid. And I would hear the other kids describe her that way. Oh, well, Callie, she's always smart. She's always, and she really began to jump onto that. Now, she had a lot of other talents too. She's a great athlete. She was great in theater. And of course, one of our best dancers and karaoke stars in our family, but which is very high on our importance list. But she had this identity. When I was asked to do the junior high youth group, when I said yes, within like 10 seconds of them asking me, I think I said I should pray about it, but then I just went ahead and said yes, because you just know, sometimes you just know. But I mean, before I got home, I had a name for it. I was thinking of the colors and the t-shirt. I knew we were gonna have to have a t-shirt because we needed to have an identity. We needed to say who we were gonna be, because the junior high program had never been done at the church before. So it's those kind of things. I love these stories about identity. I talk about them all the time. So now, because I also love movies, I'm going to show you a clip from one of my favorite movies, a superhero movie. Okay, little backstory. This movie is called Captain Marvel. This movie is all about identity. It is not necessarily one of the best Marvel movies. I will say that. It's full. It's like they had to get a whole lot of stuff in, but Captain Marvel just happens to be the most powerful character in all of the Marvel universe. This particular movie was really, really good, and it's about identity. A little backstory. It's very complicated, but she was raised on another planet. Turns out that they kind of like fooled her. They told her she was somebody else. Then all of a sudden she gets to Earth and she starts having all these weird memories, and she realizes, oh, she has these friends and she had this life that she didn't even remember, and all these aliens are talking to her and all this stuff, and she's trying to figure out who she is. So let's see, hopefully this will work. I'm going to try to show you this clip. I got a couple of clips. Y'all might want to turn your sound up, and a little bit later we're going to have a sing along. Okay, just want you to know. Right. If that's not a picture of helping somebody break into freedom, I don't know what is. That is so many of us, so many people that you are around are in bondage, are covered in dirt or rock or whatever. And it does take love, and it does take somebody looking at them and saying, I know who you are. I know who you can be. I know who God sees you are. And we have to speak truth to ourselves. I am Moana. I had a situation because of this movie, a situation that I was in, that I was going to have to give a presentation. It was a very, very important moment for myself and for other things going on for other people. as I walked up to get ready, I started speaking it to myself. Stacie Forest, you know who you are. I was saying, you can do this. You've got this. I was telling myself what I needed to tell myself for that moment. I was speaking to myself truths that I knew, truths that other people had said to me. I'm not making stuff up. I was saying truths that I have learned about myself, but I needed to remind myself at that moment. I literally used a Moana moment, and I was thinking about it right before I did it. That because that's what told me how I was going to get through the situation was say who you are. Sometimes you do it for other people, and sometimes you have to do it for yourself. Supporting one another, we women, we're better at it than guys are. Let's be honest. We can grab a coffee with somebody much easier sometimes, but go ahead and do that. When I saw myself about to turn 50, I said I'm gonna need some girlfriends. My kids are about to all leave the house, empty nesters. I need some girlfriends. I had friends, I had some girlfriends, but I need to connect in a much closer level. So I started having coffees and dinners and things like that, and just trying to connect with them. Some of them didn't work out. Some of them was like, that wasn't that much fun. I didn't really enjoy that. Some of them still stay connected with. Some of them it's long distance. Some of them it's close by, but it's supporting one another. Okay, I got one more song. I know it's a lot. I actually tried to go fast tonight, but obviously that did not work. I thought I would go faster. One more song, and this, you guys, is a sing along. Everybody, turn your volume up. This song also, if you know me, you know I'm a crazy great car karaoke singer. I can sing like Barbara Streisand, Mariah Carey, and Barry Manilow all tied into one in my car like nothing you have ever seen or heard, and Ed Sheeran every once in a while. But I'm just saying I'm great at it, you guys. Now you step out of the car, maybe not hitting all the notes exactly right. But I'm just saying this song right here is the song you need when you need to when you've been through something and you need to have a little self-talk. Here's your song, and then we'll be done. Okay? Turn up your volume. Feel free to chair dance, jump up and down, whatever you want to do. Mom, thank you for dancing along with me, Deborah. I saw you. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, y'all, that is just that is what we have to do. We have to help each other. We got to support each other. That was from The Greatest Showman. A totally false tale about P.T. Barnum, but a very fun bunch of songs that just make you say, I can do this. We have to say that to each other. We have to say that to our friends, our family. Sometimes we have to kind of lie to ourselves. You can make it, even if we don't believe that we can. That it has to do with our identity. That's all I got about Esther and Vashti, you guys. That's what I get out of that story, is trying to figure out who you are. Sometimes it's that bold, in your face, brute strength kind of Vashti kind of attitude toward life, and sometimes it's a little quiet, reserved, just figuring it out. But it still involves courage, and we all need courage. We're all going through some crazy, crazy, crazy stuff, and it's not. Sometimes it gets better, sometimes it doesn't. But it's if we're out there being the hands and the feet and the voice of God, then there's going to be, we got persecution, and there's going to always be somebody that we need to save. There's always somebody that needs rescuing. And sometimes it's us, and we have to be honest about that. And I want you guys to be okay too. If anybody have any questions, because I've gone long again tonight, we got to go see how the Cowboys are doing. Anybody have any thoughts or questions? Thank you for dancing with me if you did. Deborah. Anybody?
That was a good lesson. I loved it.
Oh, well, thank you, Deborah.
Woo.
Thank you for joining the show. Deborah calls it a show. Anybody else? Any thoughts?
I loved it. It was really good as well.
Tara, we still haven't met, Tara. I still see your name across there. It's good to see you.
Yes, I'm Tara, and I'm aligned with Gloria Zion. I've been for years and years and years, but
great.
I can only come usually to the big feast conferences, things like that. So I have to introduce myself for sure.
Fantastic.
So I'm very glad to get connected to this
good.
group.
Ask
with
anybody,
you guys.
Anybody will be able to point me out. Some of them may not be nice about it, but they'll point me out. I'm well known. Okay. But I would love to meet you sometime. But anybody else have any questions or thoughts about Vashti or Esther or identity? All right, I'm going to go ahead and end it because we've gone kind of long again. Father, thank you that we are connected with you, that we do know that you are our source, that you have given us visions and desires and plans for our life, and we can connect with you and get on and stay on that path. Father, I ask for you to bring freedom to these ladies and to those who are there connected with women. There's a strength that we need that we can only find in you, because we're touching so many different things, and we're aware of so many different things, and sometimes it's hard to quiet our thoughts and our fears down. But Father, I ask for you to bless these ladies and strengthen their hearts in all areas. And I pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. I will check you guys later. Y'all are awesome. Thanks for dancing with me. Talk to you later.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Bye.